Carly Fiorina. In 1999, Hewlett-Packard was a respected, steady technology company. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. Then Carly Fiorina arrived with a bold vision to reinvent HP and make it bigger, louder, and more competitive. Her biggest move came in 2001. She pushed through a $25 billion acquisition of Compaq, despite strong opposition from HP's board, employees, and even the founding family. Fiorina argued that size would guarantee survival in the PC era. On paper, the deal promised efficiency and market dominance. In reality, it delivered confusion. The cultures clashed. Layoffs followed. Morale dropped. The merged company struggled to innovate and lost focus on its core strengths. Profits lagged competitors for years. By 2005, Fiorina was forced out. HP spent the next decade untangling the merger. If Fiorina had focused on improving HP's strengths instead of chasing size, the company's story might have stayed far simpler. Fred Goodwin. Fred Goodwin ran Royal Bank of Scotland like nothing could go wrong. During the early 2000s, RBS expanded aggressively, buying banks across the world. Goodwin believed growth meant safety. The bigger the bank, the safer it would be. In 2007, at the very top of the market, he approved the disastrous purchase of ABN AMRO for over $70 billion. It was the largest banking takeover in history. Then the financial crisis hit. RBS was drowning in debt, toxic assets, and exposure it couldn't control. Losses piled up faster than anyone imagined. In 2008, the UK government stepped in with a massive bailout. RBS posted the largest loss in British corporate history. Goodwin was removed and later stripped of his knighthood. If Goodwin had slowed down instead of chasing size, RBS might never have needed saving. Marissa Mayer. Once upon a time, Yahoo was the internet. Email, news, search, it did everything. When Marissa Mayer became CEO in 2012, she was hired to save it. She moved fast. Mayer spent billions acquiring startups, including Tumblr, for $1.1 billion. She redesigned Yahoo again and again, hoping to make it feel modern, but the strategy lacked focus. The company struggled with mobile. Its advertising business kept shrinking. Tumblr never delivered real profits. Innovation stalled. Users drifted away. Yahoo still owned valuable assets, but its core business kept weakening. In 2017, Yahoo sold its main internet operations to Verizon for a fraction of its former value. If Mayer had focused less on buying growth and more on fixing Yahoo's core, the company might still matter today. Eddie Lampert. Sears once sold America almost everything: appliances, clothes, tools, even entire houses ordered from a catalog. When Eddie Lampert took control in 2005, retail was changing fast. Online shopping was growing, and customers expected better stores and better experiences. Lampert didn't focus on that. Instead, he treated Sears like a financial puzzle. He saw the company as pieces to sell, not a brand to rebuild. He sold valuable assets like the Craftsman brand. He sold prime real estate. He cut costs everywhere he could. But stores weren't updated. Technology lagged behind competitors. Shelves emptied, morale dropped, and customers slowly disappeared. Lampert believed efficiency mattered more than experience. Amazon believed experience created efficiency. Sears kept shrinking year after year until bankruptcy arrived in 2018. If Lampert had invested in customers instead of dismantling the company, Sears might still be alive today. Bernard Ebbers. WorldCom grew incredibly fast during the telecom boom of the 1990s. Bernard Ebbers loved growth and the feeling of constant momentum. But when the tech bubble burst, demand slowed and profits started shrinking. The numbers no longer looked impressive. Instead of admitting the slowdown, Ebbers chose a dangerous shortcut. Executives quietly manipulated the company's accounting, hiding nearly $11 billion in expenses and losses. On paper, WorldCom looked healthy and profitable. In reality, it was bleeding cash. Investors trusted the reports. Employees believed in the stock. Many put their savings into the company. In 2002, the fraud was exposed. WorldCom collapsed almost overnight. It became the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history at the time. Thousands lost jobs. Pensions vanished. Ebbers was convicted of fraud and sentenced to prison. If Ebbers had accepted reality instead of faking success, WorldCom might have survived as a smaller company instead of disappearing entirely. John Sculley. John Sculley joined Apple in 1983 after being personally recruited by Steve Jobs, but the partnership didn't last. Just 2 years later, Sculley pushed Jobs out of the company he helped create. Without its visionary founder, Apple slowly lost its sense of direction. Product lines multiplied with no clear purpose. Prices stayed high while competitors got cheaper. The brand became confusing to customers. Apple also refused to license its software widely, giving Microsoft's Windows the chance to dominate the PC market. Innovation slowed and market share slipped away. By the mid-1990s, Apple was bleeding cash and losing relevance. Many analysts believed the company wouldn't survive. In 1997, Apple brought Jobs back. He cut products, simplified everything, and restored focus. Apple recovered. If Sculley had learned to work with Jobs instead of removing him, Apple's darkest decade might never have happened. Martin Winterkorn. Volkswagen wanted to become the world's biggest car maker, fast. Under CEO Martin Winterkorn, the pressure to dominate competitors became intense. Engineers struggled to meet strict emission standards while keeping diesel cars powerful and cheap. Instead of slowing down or adjusting expectations, Volkswagen chose to cheat. Engineers installed software in millions of cars that detected emissions tests and temporarily reduced pollution, making vehicles appear far cleaner than they actually were. In 2015, the truth came out. Volkswagen faced massive recalls, lawsuits, and fines totaling tens of billions of dollars. Winterkorn resigned almost immediately. The company's reputation suffered lasting damage, and public trust evaporated overnight. All of it stemmed from a culture that valued winning above honesty. If Winterkorn had accepted slower growth instead of demanding perfection, Volkswagen might still be famous for engineering excellence rather than deception. Adam Neumann. Adam Neumann didn't just run WeWork, he ruled it. The company promised to change the world by renting office space. Investors loved the vision and money poured in. Neumann encouraged a cult-like culture built around his personality, not profitability. He spent lavishly using company funds, private jets, expensive parties, personal real estate deals. Meanwhile, the core business quietly lost billions of dollars every year. WeWork called itself a tech company, but it was really just leasing long-term office space and renting it short-term. In 2019, WeWork tried to go public. Its financial documents shocked investors. Losses were massive. Governance was non-existent. The valuation collapsed from $47 billion to under $10 billion almost overnight. Neumann was forced out, and WeWork barely survived. If Neumann had focused on building a sustainable business instead of a personal empire, WeWork might have become profitable instead of infamous. Jeffrey Skilling. Enron was once praised as one of the smartest and most innovative companies in America. Jeffrey Skilling pushed a culture of extreme confidence and aggressive risk-taking. The message inside Enron was simple. Always look successful, no matter what. Behind the scenes, losses were hidden using complex accounting tricks. Massive debts were moved off the books. On paper, Enron looked profitable. In reality, it was falling apart. By late 2001, investor confidence vanished almost overnight. Analysts began asking questions. The truth spilled out fast. Enron collapsed in one of the largest bankruptcies in U.S. history. Billions in shareholder value disappeared. Thousands of employees lost jobs and retirement savings. Skilling was later convicted of fraud and conspiracy. If Enron had reported honestly instead of pretending to be perfect, it might have remained a normal energy company. Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes promised a miracle. She claimed Theranos could run hundreds of medical tests using just a few drops of blood. Investors believed her. Doctors trusted her. The problem was simple and devastating. The technology never worked. Instead of admitting failure and fixing the science, Holmes doubled down on the lie. She misled investors, silenced employees, and staged demonstrations that hid the truth. Theranos grew on hype, not results. Eventually, whistleblowers spoke up and regulators stepped in. The company collapsed completely. Holmes was convicted of fraud and sentenced to prison. If Holmes had chosen honesty over ambition, Theranos might have quietly failed instead of becoming a global warning taught in business and ethics classes everywhere. Sometimes companies don't die because the idea was bad. They die because the person in charge refused to admit reality. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it. It really helps the channel. Share it with a friend who loves business stories or big corporate failures. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos that break down complex business mistakes in a simple, easy to understand way. See you in the next one.